trying to help him over the last sort of year, and you know, there's been because I'm Danish. Måske skulle jeg snakke dansk, nej, men det kan jeg bagefter. So I've been trying to see if there's any groups that might be interested in taking up the work that John has started in Scotland, because it is now going international, more and more so. So I'm just excited that people are here to listen. I'm not quite sure how many are in Denmark, but that's another matter. So much for me. John, it's great you can make it. And Mike, great you could be there as well. Wonderful.
And you can start recording, Mike, when we start. Okay. And you can mute all the people, Mike.
Well, thank you for coming this evening. It's nice to see you all. We'll try to speak slowly so you can understand. My English is not great either, being Scots. The Common Law Court will have been up and running for 3 years next month on the 11th of June. It was set up originally by myself because I had suffered injustice through the legal system in this country. We found out what the problem was, and unfortunately within the world there was no existing system in place to allow us to overcome the injustice. So we sat down with a few people and we basically put this together, a brand new system, but basically we've moved out within the statutory system, the state system, if you like. Now, when we set up and convened the first Common Law Court, it was in Scotland, but most of the English-speaking people throughout the world seem to recognise the name or the terminology common law and common law courts. So we've actually adopted that, but the principles follow various other things. The common law court process can actually be renamed. It's applicable to, say, universal law. The fundamental basics still apply. It is also natural law. You can call it law of the land, or if you are religious, it can be either the Creator's law or God's law. So all of these laws are applicable in all the names, which means that this system can be used throughout the world for different people in all countries. It's literally establishing the position of the sovereign, the living being, which is the man or the woman, and separating yourself from the legal entity that the state attached to you, because it's done so fraudulently. Now, up until now, we seem to be the only ones that have actually done this, but what we've done is taken control of the legal entity, and we've actually won in court with this, and we've established this as a fact, something that the courts don't like, and they won't actually allow us to go into any court hearings now because of what we've done. But we're using this process in many other countries now. People are joining in. I think today we actually got another country, so we're sitting at 113 countries. Now, this means that people from 113 countries have decided that they like what we're doing, and they have actually went and completed a declaration for their birth. So that gives us the 113 countries. I think in relation to the landmass of the world, we're sitting about 80%. Within the website, there is a landmass that shows you the countries involved, so you can actually see it on the site. But most of the major countries are covered. And again, we've got about 80% of the world, people standing together. In Australia, I think in about 4 to 6 weeks' time, they're setting up, I think it's 8 different courts for different states in Australia. So they're going to have a common law court. We're dealing with the Republic of Ireland, who are about to have one. We're dealing with New Zealand, who are about to put them into place as well. And there are other countries, America and Canada, are asking about this, but I don't have the contacts over there. We have many, many people from the country signing up, but there's no one taking the lead in relation to asking to set this up and to assist with the process. But the reason for speaking to yourselves is I know that many countries experience problems just now worldwide, and there's various issues, but it's all coming through the state and what the state are doing to the people. They're committing crimes to the people and everyone's suffering. Now, what we will say in relation to what we're doing just now, this was set up for basically one thing and one thing only. It's set up to provide a lawful process for the people to protect themselves. And that's it. Now, if you make a declaration of your birth, which is the easy way around it, it says all you're doing is submitting basic information on the site. There is no charges for any of the information you submit on site. So if you didn't want any of the documents or cards, you don't have to have them. But if you didn't want them, it doesn't cost a penny, and you can use all the system free of charge. So it's set up to protect the people. Because we've developed this with the people and the ideas come from the people, we have actually taken out various things to assist in the process, birth certificates and so on. I'll explain a little bit more about that shortly. But as I said, this is set up predominantly just to provide a lawful remedy for the people. That's how simple it is. We've achieved huge results in the courts in the UK and even abroad. We have got the courts in the UK, and this is important because within the UK, if we go back 1,000 years, you have never ever had a judicial system, justice system, that has not been controlled by the state and the crown and the government. You see, so the crown, the monarchy, the government, they've always controlled the justice system. We have now established a completely separate system in the UK. The existing courts in the UK have actually acknowledged that in written decisions from the courts, stating that we have this system, we convene our own courts, we issue our own paperwork and our own judgments. However, they say it's not applicable to them, so they're going to ignore it. Well, first of all, they can't ignore it because they are living men and women. And secondly, if there are two opposing decisions, it needs to be established which is the superior. And this is the stage we're currently at. So we're going to challenge them to establish which court is superior, and it has to be the court of the people, which is the Commonwealth Court. Now, the courts are simple because we do not deal with the state. The juries that we have at these hearings consist of 12 people, a minimum of 12 jury members, and they're all members of the public. All the court officers that take part in the day, they're all appointed from members of the public, and they're appointed randomly. There is some brief training given before the court case commences. There's an introduction to the public to explain what's going to take place on the day, and then we involve the public that attend. Providing the system is complied with and the steps are followed, it's very, very simple. You can use this everywhere and it doesn't cost anything. Now, what we do is, providing it's been done correctly, at the end of the hearing, the trial, you will have a lawful decision, which we're looking to enforce just now. So you will be able to do that. If you were to conduct a hearing, and when you were sending out the appropriate paperwork, you didn't actually mention who you were prosecuting. You just stated that you wish to convene a court. You name the venue, the time of the hearing, and you state that you want to obviously address a wrong that was done to you, and you're going to prosecute someone. If you do not name the defendant, it's not lawful. So therefore, the decision wouldn't be valid. It wouldn't be lawful. If you have a jury trial and you decide that you want to have a jury with less than 12 people, also that wouldn't be lawful. So that would be struck out as well. So providing you follow basic principles about how to convene a court, you can do this anywhere with the public. Now, the good thing about this is it does not involve the state. There is no state involvement at all, no statutory figures, no involvement, and we have the authority to do what we're going to do. As I said, we're looking at enforcement just now, but what we're doing is taking this concept and spreading it to people worldwide. As I said, we're currently helping people in other countries, and in a matter of weeks, we're setting up international pages. We have actually on the site yesterday just set up a couple of international pages, well, a few of them, and the people that are working in the various countries will be looking to set up information on their own pages relevant to their own country. I took the liberty of setting one up for yourself. If for some reason someone wants to come back and say, look, we will take some information to highlight what's currently happening in Denmark, we will cover that on the site just now as well and get yourselves involved. So it's a way to introduce this if you wish to proceed with courts, we can give you the documentation, we can give you help, we can give you the structure. Now, we go on to the benefits of the system. I'm not sure what it's like in Denmark, but I presume it's the same as everywhere else. When I first went to a court in this country, having never committed a crime in my life, but I had to go in and defend myself against a couple of employers who were criminals. So I went in to protect myself, but when I went into the court system, I realised how corrupt the courts were. Now, I then realised that if you go into their system, you play by their rules. So if they're not going to follow their own rules, and they're only there to protect the state, they're not going to protect you if it conflicts with their position. So you're not going to win. And I soon learned there's no point in using the system. So what you have to do is remove yourself from it. Now, when I went to a judge, I had said to the judge that I was a living man and I stood under common law and he had no authority. When he finished laughing at me, he said I couldn't care less, which I thought was ignorant. And I looked and couldn't believe the words he said. But I thought, this is ridiculous. So I went home and sat and thought about it. But he was correct. What he was saying is that whether or not I was a living man and whether or not I established it, it didn't matter to him because he was only dealing with the legal fiction, the contract, the legal fiction, the fictitious name. He wasn't dealing with a living man. He couldn't because he has no authority. But in his court, that's all he was dealing with. So he dismissed me. So then we said, right, if you're going to do this, you have to change it. So we have something, a document in Scotland that's actually quite good, and the Scots are very proud of it. We keep relating to it. It's something called the Declaration of Arbroath. Now, similar to the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence, you've got many constitutions in the world that are there to protect the people. The difference about the Declaration of Arbroath is it's different from every other one because a couple of things happened. Within this document, because the Scots were being prosecuted by the English at the time, the Scots had written to the Pope at the time, who was the superior authority, and asked for help. Now, effectively, if the Pope had not helped the Scots, it would have been genocide because we would no longer be here. But if he didn't want to do that and he had to take the Scots side, it confirmed one or two things. In the document, it confirmed that every individual born in Scotland is born a sovereign and they will never be subjected to English rule or rule by anyone else. So that's crucial because we've actually used that, and we'll change it slightly because although this happened at the time, the Church and the Pope and the Crown in the UK and the governments, even up to the existing government, have as recently as last year confirmed that everyone in Scotland is born a sovereign. So they cannot actually rule over us. Now, what we do is we use this to argue against the state, and our own Prime Minister, there's our First Minister, who's an idiot. But basically says she uses this argument to defend her, and she says the English will never hold us accountable in the UK Parliament. They will not rule over us. They will not tell us what to do. We're sovereign. 1 week later, we're in the Scottish government, and she's telling the Scots people what to do. It says, well, if we're sovereign as far as the UK Parliament's concerned, we're also sovereign as far as she's concerned, so she can get stuffed, which she doesn't seem to think about that. But the point is, of what I was trying to make now, the document itself established the fact that as a living man or a living woman, you can stand and you can take on not only the Crown, but you can take on the state and the government. Now, with that document, it made one crucial point. It says as long as 100 people stand together, you're allowed to do that. So you can challenge the authority of countries and crowns all over the world. This is established as long as you have 100 people. Now, what we did is we set up a simple document, a declaration for the Common Law Court, to explain that the people will no longer accept the crimes being committed against them by the state everywhere in the world. It says because we are sovereign people, everyone, living men and women, and we stand together, we will never be subjected to statutory rule anywhere in the world. And just to make sure, so there was no dispute, we actually took 100 people, but we took the 100 signatures and got the document signed, because all these other documents are signed by maybe 40 or 50 noblemen or barons or kings. They're signed by the officials. This document is the only document in the world that's been created by the people, and it has no state involvement. It's by the people and for the people. And to make sure that we do stand together, we've actually taken the 100 signatures as a small sample of the people that stand together. And we've used this in not one of our documents. We have over 600 of them have been used worldwide. And if you go to any authority at all, you can go to the courts, you can go to the police, you can go to councils, you can go to, authorities, social services, you could go to housing associations, go to solicitors, bankruptcy people, trustees, social services for removing children, everyone, any authority you want, even the DVLA, the driving authorities. You can go to any one of these. We have submitted documents in there. So we've submitted in various countries over 600 of these documents. Not one of these documents has ever been challenged, ever. The documents are lawful and the state cannot do anything about them. So therefore, what it's done is it's giving you now the lawful authority because you stand together. Now, if we go back to when I was in court, I stood as one individual. If you go to court and you defend yourself as one individual, as a living man or woman, you go before the judge and you say that you're a living man or woman. He's fine with that. He hasn't got a problem, because you will never, as one individual, take on the state and the establishment and be successful as one individual. If you stand, as in the Declaration of Arbroath, you stand with a minimum of 100 people standing together, you now have the authority to take on governments. But if you, to establish this fact, record and submit a declaration of your birth to the Common Law Court, which is free of charge, you have now made a solemn declaration in law that you exist, not as a legal fiction, and you're not owned by the government. You live as a living man or woman. It's free of charge. By making that declaration, you still own the information, because the Common Law Court is you. You're the people. You own the information for yourself. You make a declaration, but as soon as you do that, the next time you're in court or you're facing the authorities, you stand there and say to them, as I did, I'm a living man. You have no authority and jurisdiction. At which point the judge turned to me and says, well, I'm not worried. I'll continue. I said, no, you won't. Look at the documentation you have in front of you. You had to look into the bundle and you found a common law birth certificate. I says to him, that confirms that I'm a living man. It's a lawful document, a deed issued by a court, and it has the authority of the people. You cannot ignore it. And the judge immediately had to turn around and accept that he had no authority or jurisdiction over the living man. But what he then wanted to do is he then wanted to say, right, okay, then I'm dealing with the fiction. Now, the legal fiction is your name, which is normally in capital letters, and it is with a title. In my case, it's Mr. John Smith. But when he turned away to ignore me, I stopped him immediately and says, look, stop. Before you proceed, I've established my position with this lawful document. I'm a living man. He says, the only way you can proceed is by using the fiction. However, if you look in front of you, I have submitted a document to confirm that I own the fiction. And as he then looked in front of him, he did have the document. And when he had the document, it was pointed out to him, because I own the legal fiction and I don't give consent, he has no authority and jurisdiction and he cannot proceed, which never went down well. He didn't like it, so he adjourned the hearing for 2 weeks and walked out the court. Now, the only way that we can obtain ownership of the fiction, it doesn't really matter about the fiction. I'm not worried about it. But basically, the fiction, the legal fiction, was created at birth. Your parents were informed that they have to register your birth. And then what they do is when they register your birth, they're effectively signing you into slavery. They don't know this, But the government take this name that you're given at birth and they create this legal fiction, a fictitious name, a legal title. You're never told about it. Now, if we look at their rules, that's all they are, they're not laws. If we look at their rules, the rules state that if it involves more than one individual, well, it does, because it involves you, it involves your parents, and it also involves the state. So according to their rules, it means it's a contract, a contractual agreement. For a contract to be valid, there are various points that have to be proven. I don't need to go past one point because they'll never win. On one point, for a contract to be valid, there has to be full disclosure, which means every party must know everything relating to the agreement or the contract, the concept. Now, in relation to the birth certificate in the legal fiction, you as an individual were a baby, and since you've grown up, the government and the state have never came to you to tell you what they've done when they created the fiction. They did not tell your mum and dad at the time, and they still haven't told anyone. So according to their rules, the contract is void. Now, if the contract is void, it means that the certificate, original certificate at birth, is also void. It also means that the legal entity is void, so they cannot use it. Now, if they cannot use it because it's criminal and you can prove it, what we do then is say, well, look, what are we going to do with the fiction? Does it exist? Well, yes, it does. I don't know. I says, hopefully some of you have signed up to the Common Law Court. There will be some who haven't, which is not a problem. But for those who haven't signed up to the Common Law Court, if I were to ask you for identification to prove who you are, you would take out loads of documents. You would take out a driving license, a bank card, a national insurance card, a mortgage agreement, a loan agreement, a passport, all these documents. They're all a waste of time because every one of these documents only relate to the legal fiction. It doesn't highlight you. It doesn't identify you as a man or a woman. Every one of these documents is for a legal fiction. And the government, when they deal with you, they only deal with the legal fiction, which is this title. It's a contractual agreement. They don't deal with you. So if we come back to the question again, if you take all these documents away, can you prove that you're a living man or woman? Well, I can see faces here. I can see some. I says, I take it that you're all living. But if I was to come off of here just now and go and speak to someone, next door neighbour, and say, I was on a nice Zoom meeting, I met a lot of nice people over in Denmark, we had a chat, it was lovely. If they ask me to identify someone, I can give a name from the screen and just turn around and say, right here, I spoke to so-and-so. If they turn around and says, well, can you prove they exist? Well, no, I can't. Because you have nothing in common law that confirms you're a living man or woman. Apart from physically touching you and saying you exist, you don't under common law. So therefore, if you're going to take on the state and argue with the state and try to justify your position as a living individual, you have to confirm that you exist. So therefore, by making a declaration at the Common Law Court, you've done that. So you've already won the battle because you're taking away their control. Now, what we've done with the work we've done, we've taken all this information and the courts are actually accepting our documentation as lawful, which means they can't do anything about it. So by doing this, you confirm you exist as a living man or woman. And then we say, well, what are we going to do with the legal fiction? Well, it does exist. It's still on your documents. If you do nothing about it and you confirm you're a living man or woman, you've confirmed that, it's fine. But the state will still prosecute the fiction and they'll still commit crimes against you. So what to do is to take full control back. You are allowed now to turn around and say, well, look, the concept of the name, it was created fraudulently and it's criminal, so the state can't use it. Because the fiction still exists, the legal title that's attached to you, who should be the rightful owner? Well, most reasonable-minded men and women we spoke to says, well, if it's to do with the birth name was given to the child. If a fiction is set up, the rightful owner should be the child. So if you confirm you exist as that entity, the living child, so you've grown up, you exist, that fiction should rightly belong to you. So you can submit an application to the Common Law Court confirming the details of the fiction, the title, and as an individual, a living man or woman, you can claim ownership. And if in doing so, you're given ownership automatically. So therefore, when you go to court, they can't attack you because you're a living man or woman. And then if they try to use the legal fiction, they can't because you own it. And I said to the judge in my court case, we tried to prosecute 3 judges in this country. They weren't very impressed. They couldn't challenge the common law court because the common law court is the people. It's you, it's everyone. They will never ever challenge the authority of the people. So what they tried to do is challenge someone who was involved in the court hearing. They decided that because I happened to be in the post office at the time that the documents were sent, the court summonses were sent to the judge, and I posted 3 envelopes and 3 judges received them, and the envelopes happened to have my fingerprints and DNA on them. And when you open the envelope, inside the envelope was a court summons, and the court summons also had my DNA and fingerprint. They thought that it was me that sent the letters. In fact, my DNA and fingerprints were the only ones that were on them, the court summonses. So they thought they were going to prosecute me. So they went into court, and the judge wasn't happy. So I argued them 4 days. I ended up prosecuting the judge, and I got a jury to confirm that he was a convicted criminal. And when he tried to proceed, I told him he was a criminal. He had no authority. And after 4 separate days in court, he had to drop the case against me. It probably didn't help when I tried to get the police to arrest him in court as well. I said he was a criminal, but he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't find me in contempt of court because I'd done nothing wrong, and everything I had was backed up with the common law court papers, and he had to dismiss the case. So they have no authority over you. Now, you can do this. By taking ownership of the fiction, you're allowed to do so because they've created it fraudulently. And when I said to the judge, you have no authority because I'm a living man, here's my birth certificate, and you have no authority over the fiction because I own it. So he looked at the paper. I then said to him, look, I understand that the prosecutor and yourself may not have seen this paperwork, so therefore what I will do, I will allow you to challenge this now. You may do so just now, but if you challenge it, the first thing you have to do is confirm to everyone in this court how the fiction was created and who you believe is the rightful owner. And he wouldn't answer it. So I turned around and confirmed that they refused to answer it, and in court, as a court of record and as a fact in law, that I own the legal fiction because I have these documents. It wasn't challenged, it stands in court, so it's binding. So the process does work, and you do that, but this is what we're doing. We're setting these up. To take it further, we also have common law courts when we're prosecuting people for committing crimes against the people, and we're currently looking at enforcement, which is well down the line just now, but very shortly, we're actually going to have an enforcement team up as well. Sorry, okay, questions? Thanks. Yeah.
I just want to say that you have to leave soon, I heard, so can you, there's a lot of people that have a question, if you can share the difference between Asvali that many people know here, Anders Bak, and the common law court. Just what is the difference? You have dived a little bit into it, just for the people to know here in Denmark.
Yeah. The main thing, as far as I can understand, I think they've tackled some good work. The major flaw that they have, as far as I can understand, is that they are actually still tied into the existing system. I believe that they are working with the United Nations and they're hoping to achieve recognition, which effectively means they're begging the state for permission, which they'll never give. And I believe that they're also speaking to the Vatican to try and obtain some land or some assistance. Now, if you go to the Church and the United Nations, you're not actually standing as a sovereign and an individual. He said they're actually going to the state and begging the state for permission. Now, the state are not going to give you, and even if they did come to an agreement, the state will always have control. So you're passing one owner, one slave owner. He says you're passing that on to someone else. So effectively, you're working for one slave and you get ownership or freedom from him, and you then go to another slave. You're still under the same system. Not only that, he says, we've set this up, but when we set it up, this is all about justice and a lawful remedy. As I says, when we do this, nobody gets paid for this work. But at the end of the day, what we do is we ensure that there's justice for everyone. Now, if you're operating a system to provide justice, you do so, you shouldn't be paying for it. So basically, I've had numerous courts I've never paid for one, which is just as well because I've no money. But the point is, you shouldn't be deprived of justice if you don't have money. I believe that the system they operate is linked into financial payments, is in relation to paperwork or cards or something you do. Now, if it's not compulsory and you can still use the system, that will be great. So the system may work. I don't think that's the case. I believe to use the system, you have to pay into it. Now, if you do that, that's compulsory again. I would disagree with that. We provide a lawful remedy which anyone can use. They get the assistance of the court with the paperwork, and it takes us out of the system. If you use a system, there is never, ever any point in going into a system or a court or an authority to argue if they are going to win 1 point, because you're on a hiding to nothing. If you have 100 points you're going to make and 99 points are correct, but you relate 1 point to their statutory system and argue, when you go before the judge will pick on that 1 point. He will then defeat you and you'll ignore the 99 points. So what we do is we go in with, say, 10 points, and every point we have is based on common law and the authority of the people. The judges can never, ever challenge any of our points, and they will never win because we've come out of the system completely. If they deal with the United Nations and the church, they're not coming out of the system. I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. It's just, if you choose to do so, I wish you the best of luck, but the thing is, all you're doing is changing one slave owner to another. Okay. Any questions?
There's a question for that woman. Maybe you can ask the questions instead of writing it. Just open your mic and ask the questions to John before he has to leave, and then Mike will take over and Gregers after, when John has to leave. Just open your mic and ask the question.
I've kind of got a question, but I just wanted to mention something that I took part in a few years ago, 2017. I actually journeyed with a small group of people to Malta to gain a life statement under oath. I can provide that if it's of any interest. It's essentially declaring me to be a living, breathing soul, as far as I understand. It's valid for 7 years, so I think it has to do with maritime law, essentially. Whether that's, I just did it to cover some bases if ever needed. But I'm definitely going to follow down this route, common law court, and I'm very appreciative of the work that's been done. Very appreciative.
To answer that point, it's a bit concerning that you seem to be a living man just now, but after the 7 years, I don't know what's happening to you. We've got the system that we use. You make a declaration, and when you make the declaration, you've stated under oath that you do exist in your living. It says what happens is the information is recorded on the site, and when goes on, you receive a number which is automated. It's a reference. That stays there for as long as you want it to remain on the system. So if you don't take it off, it stays there. You've confirmed your position permanently. So you're living, and that's it. Now, if you wanted a document, you say, well, I want a hard copy certificate. Anything that we give is with a court seal, and it's embossed. So it has a legal seal as well, lawful seal. It says when you get that, it stands up everywhere. It's never, ever been challenged. So it confirms your position, and again, it's free of charge. You don't have to worry about it. Hello, sorry, Jane's waving.
Yes,
yeah?
it's not related to this question.
Okay.
I'm quite new in this. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mentioned we need to be like standing alone as one person. When you say 100, do you mean some signed? Do they all have to be in common law? Or is it a paper we can use from you? I just have to get this straight.
In this site, what we did is we based the argument that we exist as living men and women. Up until we set this up, there is nowhere in the world that will record living men and women. So if you wanted to make a statement as a living man or a woman, nobody records it anywhere. So we've set up this. Yeah, so we've got this now, which we've set up. Now, what we've did to ensure our authority, to protect us, we have used documents from the past. We've looked at them and we put together a declaration from for the Common Law Court. Now, when we did so, we spoke to a number of people, took a lot of time to put it together, and then we prepared it and put it up on the site. It is on the site just now. It's there for everyone to see. And it's what you, if you stand as a living man or woman, it basically says that this is the principles you stand under. So basically, what we're saying is you have the right to obviously live your life, suffer from no harm and loss, and the state cannot prosecute you and use statutory legislation to do so. And what we've established in the conversation is through the Declaration of Arbroath, the governments, the Crown in the UK, and also the Church have accepted the position that if at least 100 men and women stand together, you can then take on and challenge a state and a government. So what we said is, look, we have thousands of people stand together, but we're not physically going to get everyone to sign. When you get Magna Carta and other documents done in the past, they will get maybe 40 or 50 people to sign them, the barons or the kings or something, or anyone in government. But what we did is we said, no, the Declaration of Arbroath had about 30 or 40 signatures, but it states that you've got to have 100. So what we did is we said, look, we've got thousands of people here, but what we are prepared to do is from within the thousands of people we have, we will take a representation and we will provide you with at least 100 signatures. So we worked on a first come, first served basis. So the first 100 people to log into the site, they actually got to sign the document. So if you go to the site, you can download the document and you can use it for yourself. But the document is the declaration, and then after that you have 100 signatures. So it has actually been signed by 100 people. And if you take that to challenge any authorities in courts, you can use that in saying that you stand under that and you stand with 100 people who have already signed. No one has ever questioned this. It goes into every court we challenge. We prosecuted the Queen in this country and we got a result as well, which is quite nice. But we've done that using these documents and no one can ever challenge it.
Well, that's wonderful, John. That means that I don't have to go around knock neighbors' doors to get funded. They are really available.
It's there. You use what's there. All you need to do is print it off. And you don't even need to print it. You can actually refer to the document because it has a reference number in the website, so you can just refer to it. But we would help you if you ever need it.
I would love to have it in my hand when if I had to challenge them. But thanks, John. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question from many people around. If we leave the system and get a card from your identification card from Common Law Court, are we then leaving the social structure in our country? Like are we leaving also the social rights and do we have to pay tax and or do we get the benefits from the education and all? Are we leaving the whole thing and just stepping out?
Okay, first of all, when you do this, this is not about money. This is establishing your position as a living man or woman. Now, literally, if you sign up to the court, the Common Law Court, you're declaring you exist as a man or woman, right? Nobody ever needs to know about that, and it doesn't change your life. Your life, daily life, continues exactly the same. It says nothing changes. The only time it will change is if you have to stand up to the authorities and you need to confirm that you're a living man and woman and that you're not going to be prosecuted, then you will use it. Your daily life remains the same. Now, if you are entitled, again, I apologise because I'm not quite sure how the system works there, but in most countries just now, you pay into the system, you get certain benefits back and privileges. The privileges and anything you get from the state, you're still entitled to. Tomorrow, you will go out tomorrow, well, dependent on lockdown, you may go out at some point in the future, you're going to spend money. If you pay a bill, you make a purchase. Every time you do that, you pay tax. So you're still paying into the system. So you're still allowed to claim benefits or any entitlements from the system because you're still part of the system. All you're doing is you're making those payments through the fictitious name, but you own the fictitious name. So it's under your control. But because you use this to conduct daily business, whether it's paying for services, you're paying bills, or you purchase some goods yourself or presents, or you go out for a meal or something, you're still paying into the system. So your life does not change. You are still entitled to claim all the benefits, to get all the benefits, entitlement, privileges, because you have paid. And up until now, I'm looking around, as I'm knocking on myself, I've got grey hair, but obviously I can see we've been around for a while. You, during your life, have paid in considerable amounts into the system. You've paid for that. You're entitled to use the system, and they cannot challenge that. We have people using this. We've got thousands of people. Not one of them's ever been challenged by the state, and everyone's still entitled to the benefits that they get. So no, it will not change your life. It's only to be thought of as protection. If you need to protect yourself, you can confirm your standing and stand up to the state. Okay. Yes.
I have a question regarding how would it function in a country like Denmark, which is under civil law, or the jurisdiction. The system here is under the civil law.
Yeah.
Like, how would that function? Would there still be the same process?
Well, at this moment in time, it doesn't matter what country you're in, because each country operates with a sort of lawful system, whether it's civil, Roman, Napoleon, Admiralty, anything. It doesn't matter. The system operates with a legal system. This different countries. It varies from country to country, but it doesn't matter. It's statutory law, and it all works against the legal fiction. So what we're speaking about is we're speaking about something to protect the people, and it is literally common sense. He says what it boils down to: choose any name you want. We had to give it a name, so we adopted common law, which is an English term. As a Scotsman, it doesn't go down well, but we've adopted it. It's fine. But people actually object to it. It doesn't matter where you come, but people have a laugh at it. It doesn't matter what country you're from. He says, if you wish to call this natural law, if you wish to call it universal law, if you're religious, it could be God's law or the Creator's law or even law of the land. It doesn't matter. The basic principles are cause no harm, cause no loss, cause no injury, and ensure that contractual dealings, you remain honourable. And that's it. It all boils down to that. The law that you're relating to, it doesn't matter which country you're in, is statutory legislation. It's created by governments. They have no authority over living men and women. If you stand up and say you disagree with the law, if you do not consent, it's no longer law. It only becomes law if you consent to it. Without your approval, it's not law. If you stand under common law, you accept basic principles, cause no harm, loss or injury, and ensure you're honourable. That's it. Everything else is what the state use to tax you, to penalise you, to punish you. You don't have to accept that. Now, the more and more people that use this, what we'll find out, that you can start prosecuting the authorities. If you have judges and enforcing corrupt decisions against people, prosecute the judges. You can prosecute members of parliament. You can prosecute anyone, political leaders, CEOs for large companies, any of the authorities. You're going to prosecute them all. If you build a case and they've committed crimes against men and women, they are held accountable to men and women. Now, we've set this up. You can convene the courts, and we're actually looking at the enforcement just now. So you have a whole system here. If something was to happen in Denmark and the system collapsed, there was a major blowout, it doesn't matter, because this system here can replace it. It's exactly the same. Now, if we turn around and say things are maybe going to improve in the coming year or so in Denmark, would you want to change the system? Well, if you as the people there are happy with the system, keep the system. In fact, I quite like the system in the UK as well. It's been developed over hundreds of years. What I don't like is that the system is full of corruption. If you take all the idiots out of the system that are committing the crimes, get rid of them, and you put people in to use the system correctly, we don't have a problem. However, the system is so corrupt, it won't work that way. But the point is, if you have a good system, you can still use it. You have the choice. Get rid of the corruption. Get rid of the people that are committing crimes against the people and use it. If you're not happy, get rid of the people committing the crimes anyway, and just follow these principles. Call it common law, call it universal law, natural law, whatever you want, God's law. Give it the name you want, but follow the basic principles, remain honourable, and look after the people. Okay.
Last question.
Well, yeah.
Just quickly, does everybody know what enforcement means? Yeah, de politique or something.
Sorry, in relation to?
It's just the word enforcement. If you
yeah, sorry, okay. Enforcement, we have a court decision. When we make a decision by the people, we've made a decision and we've penalised someone at the court. So someone has committed a crime against the people, they have to be penalised. So therefore, within this country and the systems they use, we have a police force. You have police throughout Europe anyway. No, they tend to use police. The police, unfortunately, within the UK, many of them are corrupt and they cannot do the job. And to be fair, they do not understand the law. So what we've said is no longer acceptable. So we're actually setting up a system for enforcement. We're actually going to call it a peace service. Instead of police officers, it will be peace service. We're going to appoint these people to have them work in the common law court in a similar capacity, but they will be working to protect the people and to help with enforcing decisions from the court. They're not going to be patrolling the streets, but they will work for the people to protect the people. And it means that we cannot be prosecuted by the state. We actually have many people, ex-police and military, that are in the process of signing up to this, and they actually want to be part of it. So it's structured, it's going to be working, it'll be up soon, but we have many, many names. They tend to be elder ones, elder police or elder army forces, because they've been in the system. They've now realised how corrupt it is, and they want to stand with us, with the people, and set this up. So this is currently in place, and we're speaking to people in other countries about it as well.
I have a last question, John. About in Denmark, we had a new law until March about mandatory vaccines.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah.
Can you just speak regarding to common law court and with the mandatory vaccines?
Yes, we took a case out last year. There was a case of vaccination. One of the individuals took out a case. We convened and we obtained a guilty decision against the health authority. Now, the individual that was prosecuted is trying to ignore us and continue. So within the next couple of weeks, we're going to use enforcement to go back and prosecute them and hold them accountable. Now, we have actually served, there have been many countries involved from this. We've got loads, but predominantly we have had key countries involved and have been for a while. And what they've done is they wanted to serve a notice and let the governments know that we existed. So we actually submitted a lawful notice to the government, the prime ministers, the first ministers and so on, to various governments and again parliaments through the world. We've done that and we've given 30 days to challenge or rebut the information. They have about 13 days left to do so, but after that period it confirmed that they cannot use any statutory legislation against us. They'll be committing crimes and they will be prosecuted by the people. So we've done this, but what we're doing is this would help with the vaccination, because under common law we've achieved a decision already. But using the document that I told Jane about earlier on, the declaration for the common law court, it's confirming that you're a living man or woman, and as such the state cannot commit crimes against you. So you have the right as a man or woman to stand up and say no. So they cannot forcibly vaccinate you. They cannot do that. They'll be held accountable with the people. They'll be prosecuted by the people, and they have no rights, no lawful rights in their system to do this. We've got 2 or 3 other things we're going to be doing, and I'm going to be putting up some videos in the next probably week to 10 days, maybe 4 or 5 videos, but we are covering the vaccinations, the mandatory vaccinations. We have obtained some results in relation to the authorities in the protection of children recently, but we're going to continue down this line as well with the authorities, but we firmly believe they will not be able to forcibly vaccinate anyone by using this approach. It's a subject we will develop. So if you, whether or not you're a part of this, if you actually follow the common law court over the next couple of weeks, there will be more information coming out about this. Sorry, everyone's waving.
Yeah.
John, can I just ask a very quick question? You're obviously familiar with Michael Benicia.
Yes.
And you know, I noticed that you've got some lien information on the Common Law Court website.
Yeah.
So the first part is that a process, or is it just a registration for an existing lien?
No, it's there is a process. If you want, we can give you a full process. It basically shows you the stages to take out a lien, how it operates, basically the rules, the procedures, and we give you blank templates to fill them out. So we have all that for you. If you wanted to conduct that, that's fine. You run the commercial lien against someone. It's a claim to account for harm, loss, or injury it's caused to you. You run the process, and at the end of it, you will have an established claim against them. But what you could do is, by submitting that to the court as well, it then becomes a lawful deed in the court, which obviously gives it more authority.
Great.
But yes, there is documents. People put up commercial liens on the site anyway, just to have it recorded there. But we have the templates and everything to help if you want.
Cool. So the next part of it then is that monetizable in the same way as, you know, could that work with the ILEEN process? And the reason I'm asking this, John, is that, you know, I'm working with Ray and others on PQR, and what we're looking to do is actually monetize them for you as well.
Well, people have tried to do it. There are various ways to do it. It's something that's going on just now, but with the Common Law Court and the enforcement that we're doing just now, we'll come to a position very shortly whereby the state have to accept what we've done, and they can no longer refuse to accept it. So once we have these documents from the Common Law Court, we will be able to get paid for them. We'll be able to monetize them, even within the existing system. The documents that we have from the court, it's provided by the people. It's a court of law. It has the authority of the people, and the existing governments have accepted the documents as lawful. They've done that. But what they've said is, yes, your documents are lawful. Yes, we agreed. Okay, that's fine. And then we turn around and say, yes, but we've prosecuted your judge and we want him held accountable and fined. And they say, oh, no, we're not doing that. But they can't do that. The documents are lawful. So we're now going to highlight this process, and we're going to target the Prime Minister, not only in this country, but in other parliaments as well. So the enforcement will come, but it's part of the process we're using. So in the near future, it will work.
Fantastic, John. Thank you. Can we talk sometime in the near future just about that subject, just to progress it a little bit further?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No,
I'll Skype you or email you. What's the best? Email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just do that. If anyone wants to do that, you can send a message. That's a personal one. I'm a bit anxious just now. I keep looking just now. Again, I'm going to take it that you're not. I'll look at the names on the screen. I take it you're not Deborah, but you're waving across. You did actually ask a question earlier, and I saw you come back. Sorry, do you have a follow-up?
No, I didn't ask anything yet.
No? Yeah.
Deborah's my wife. I'm Daniel, Daniel Brooks.
Yeah,
Good to meet you, John.
Yeah.
Bravo. I want to give you a big hug. Bravo on all the work that you've done. I want to come down to Glasgow and give you a big hug, actually. I'm just up in Oldham.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm just in Dundee now. I'm in Dundee. I was born and bred in Aberdeen, but for the last 10 years I've been down just outside Dundee, Broughty Ferry. Okay. So I'm here now. Okay. And again, the one thing I'll say, I've been given various introductions. I'm doing a few of these worldwide, but when you get an introduction, I've been called various things, not to mention on camera. But one of the things I was told is, I've been told that I'm the head of the International Common Law Court, to which I replied, bollocks, excuse my French. Basically, it says, look, the Common Law Court cannot exist without people. The Common Law Court is the people. You cannot be one individual and say I'm a common law court. It doesn't work that way. And this is why it's set up, and this is why it's successful. The common law court is the people. So what happened is I convened the first common law court to obtain a lawful remedy, and we've assisted with the process, but we work with people, not only in the UK, but internationally, and the people helped to develop it. I had a mother, I think I told her, I'm not sure, some of you will know, and a mother came to me and she was really, really happy that we protected her child. So we're actually done this. We took her legal fiction, we sorted it all out. She was delighted. And the first thing she says is, right, okay, thank you very much. Can I get my birth certificate? At which point we replied, what birth certificate? She goes, I need a birth certificate for my child. I said, well, we don't have one. You've recorded it on the site. You've made a declaration. You have a reference number. No, 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 I want a birth certificate. So we had to go away not having money, which says, can we do this? And we found out what we needed to do. So we set them up and we used the certificates for everything. So it was quite good. But it came from a mother. We've had other individuals come up and say, look, these certificates are great, but I can't put them in my pocket. Can we not have a little card instead? So we develop concepts. So each thing we do within the court is with the people. They're asking for things, providing it's realistic, and providing the consensus of people say, yes, it's a good idea, we'll use it. So we use this, but the point is, without the people, there is no common law court. So the fact that you're sitting listening to this today, whether or not, it doesn't matter. I said, look, you're obviously interested enough to speak and listen to this, which is fine. So hopefully we've opened your eyes. That doesn't mean to say you got to turn around and sign up immediately and say, oh, I'm living, I'll sign up. It doesn't matter. If you want to use it, you use it. All I'm saying is this offers a system and a way to protect yourself against the state. He says, given the crimes they're committing, you've got things like forced vaccinations. You've got things like 5G, let alone this lockdown and coronavirus, supposedly. But the crimes they commit are numerous. They're doing it all the time, all over the world. Now, for the first time ever, if you think about the world politics, this is our centuries and centuries. Years and years ago, you had the Greeks, you had the Romans, you had Ottoman Empire, your various, obviously, authorities had some sort of authority or had an empire over the years. You even had the British Empire. You've obviously got the modern day superpowers as well. All these things happen, but they all come and go. And the one thing about it, each one of these empires was established with force. If you look at what the common law court's done, you have people in 113 countries have stood up and says that they're being attacked, not by another country, they're being attacked by the state, and they don't like it. So they're standing with people throughout the world, living men and women, and stating, no, we've had enough. So they stand together against the corruption. Now, if you plot this down, where the countries are involved, as it says, we've taken up about 80% of the land mass in the world, and it's on the map on the website. So for the first time ever, you're getting people, not politicians, not governments, not the church, you're getting men and women standing together to address corruption, and you're setting up something to target the crimes against people. That's brilliant. And it's the people that are doing it. And it's all down to people like yourselves that use a system that's simple to proceed and it's easy to use and everyone can do it. And as I say, it's not about money, it's about basic principles, protection to provide a lawful remedy. So the system exists, you can adapt it, you can use it, but if you use a system in Denmark, it says to protect yourself, you can use the basis of the ideal that we've given you, which is great. So you're going to do that. That will obviously stand so much, you'll get a little bit of weight when you go to the courts and you're putting up a good argument. If you stand not as one individual, but as many people in Denmark, you can go there. If you stand not only as the people from Denmark, but the people in 113 other countries or 112 countries standing behind you, then it's 10 times better because your judges are not committing a crime against you. They're attacking people from 113 countries that stand together. That gives you the weight. Now, the thing is, the system is not about money. So therefore, if the system works here, get everyone to work together. It doesn't cost. And when everyone stands together, that combined weight of the people gives you what you want with the authority to take on the establishment. Yeah?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I would really love to come and meet you first because I've got so many questions. We don't have time. We don't have time for it yet. So
form a queue.
Yeah, I would, if you've ever heading down to the pub one time, I would love to nip over.
Yeah, but, I am out and about. It's just people ask me to come down and talk and that. So when obviously it's just things have changed, I do go out and about, and we convene common law courts as well. And we did actually think about having, at one point we said we've got people from that many countries, but we can't always get them, and people can't afford it as well. Christ, I couldn't myself, but it's as if we could have done something and even set up a conference. We'd get people traveling from all over. The benefits of that would be huge. and we could set up a conference and set how like a full day event. It would be great. It's getting somewhere to do it, and again,
or
it's
a
whether
weekend.
people could do it. Yeah, you can do something like that. Obviously, like everyone else, the first thing that appeals to me is, oh Christ, no cost of no money. But the thing is, we can put something together just now, just to get the information out to the people.
Yeah. I've got a couple of little questions. Hopefully they're little. Well, this one's maybe a big one, but what about? I've been looking into this whole thing for years as well, and trying to find solutions, etc. And following the likes of Michael Benicia and good old Mike here, and etc. etc.
Keep it short, mate, please. Right to
Sorry?
the point. Right to the point, because we're not sure how much time John has got and when.
Okay, just now it's okay. Yeah, and you.
One of the conclusions I came to about one of the foundation blocks of the problem, the way I see it, is the land ownership, is owning the land. And so something I feel that I'm here for this purpose is to go ahead and build a shelter for my family on the land and defend my right to do so. Because it just seems like the most insane thing in the world that we can't provide shelter for our families.
I'll make it simple as well and short. This is for everyone. The same principles apply. It doesn't matter what the subject is. What you've got to remember just now is people are suffering with crimes committed by the state. This process allows you to address the crimes committed. So what you have to do is use the process, hold people accountable, and get the justice. And from that, you can then build on that. You will then have the right to use the land to build property and do things. But first, you have to establish your position, which means you have to stand up to the state and use this.
Okay, well, I'm in a perfect situation to do that now, because I was arrested here in Oban a couple of weeks ago. I was on the beach with my wife and my 4 young children, and the police came along and they arrested me, put me in cuffs, took me to the police station, gave me a ticket, etc. So now I'm in a perfect position to tackle that. And I mean, I've been taking too much advice from too many people, and it just confused me.
Keep it simple. If you want help and if they're taking you to court or you're being prosecuted, if you need any help, contact me through the email I gave earlier, and I could help you and give you some information for dealing with the courts. But if you're going to their courts, you don't have to worry about that. All we do is we just challenge them and we'll get you a result. So contact me there and we can discuss it later. Yeah. Okay,
Mike, you've got his email address? Yeah?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. The rest of it can wait until we have a beer.
Yeah. Yeah. No
John, are you
problem.
okay for time after all? It sounds
I'm
like
okay. I'm okay.
That's
just
fantastic.
Now.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So, Christian, do you want to take some more questions?
I will ask the people here, Oliver, Benjamin, some of the guys here, if you have any questions, want clarity around something. Klaus?
I have just a question about. I've been looking into this sort of thing as over quite a few years as well, and I've come across quite a lot of people in Germany, in Malta, and there's a circle of people that actually do work on this in Montenegro, whether it would be beneficial to link up if they're not already linked up. And I certainly know quite a number of people that are looking for simple solutions and have put in a lot of work, and will most likely put that work into something which offers good solutions. Would that be of interest? I'm sure there's.
To be quite honest, whatever you use, if you can get the people behind you and the people's backing, that's what is most important, because obviously you have the authority with the people. The more people, the better. The only thing I will say is I spent about 10 years having suffered in the justice system to try and take them on. Now, everything I used in all the different systems I looked at over the years, they all fail, because they never work. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you look at anything else that anyone else does, it doesn't work. And it hasn't been proven. The only thing I know that does work is what we do, because we're not involved with the state. We have established our own authority, and that's it. Now, I can turn around and say, we're going to get involved. The common law court is not one individual. The common law court does not say, well, what we're going to do is tie up with someone or some group. You'll notice on the common law court site, there's no adverts, there's no links to other sites, there's no groups, because it can't be. It doesn't exist. It's not an entity, it's not a business, it's not a corporation, it's not a charity. It's a process that anyone can use free of charge.
Yeah.
So therefore, the people haven't done anything. We're not connected to anyone. If someone had come in and says, we run a group or something, well, fine, that's okay. They can use this, they can use it if they want. The common law court wouldn't actually say, well, we stand or we're going to consent or approve of what they do, because we can't, because it's a consensus of the people. We wouldn't do that. So basically, if somebody turned around and said, yes, we'd like to use or would like to help, they'd be more than welcome. But to be quite honest, personally, no, this is me personally, it's not the common law court, I would not use something that is going to waste time. Now, I don't mean to be cruel or abrupt or anything, but if I spend a lot of time, well, I have spent a lot of time working on this, I'm not going to go to someone else, listen to what they've got, and spend a lot of time working and doing what they're doing if I don't think it will work. It's a personal opinion. Everyone's entitled to it. But my personal opinion is, if they are using a system which is working within the state or the state rules, I don't want anything to do with it, because you'll never win.
Yeah.
It's asking for a turkey at Christmas time to vote for Christmas. It doesn't work. He says, when you're in their system, you're in their system. They control it. They make the rules. And if they don't like it, or you happen to get the better, they'll ignore the rules, create them or change them, and they'll still prosecute you. So we do not use their rules at all. So all these other people that try to take on the state and fight within the courts, they all use legal arguments within the system. I personally wouldn't do that, and it's a waste of my time. So if anyone wants to use the same approach we've got, we'd be delighted to work with them. But it's not in it's just basically in collaboration. We'd work to use the system that's set up, and basically everyone works together.
It sounds fantastic. I'm just thinking, in my experience, lots of people have found a gap where they can put a wedge in and find some sort of resolve, but then that is then closed up, bang, and lots of work, energy, life has just gone to waste. It's maybe good for 1-2 people until that door is closed, and then bam. Yeah.
The judge said to me in a case, sorry, just before, the judge says to me in the case, well, basically you've been charged with, and it was basically we prosecuted 3 other judges. And he said, well, you've been charged with sending intimidating documentation to these judges under this act or whatever. He says, if you're found guilty, you'll be liable for it and whatever. And he says, what do you have to say about it? I looked at him after I stopped laughing. I says, pardon? He said, well, what do you have to say about it? I said, well, why are you asking me? He says, well, this is a case before you, and this is a possible sentence, so we'll have to ask how you feel about it. I said, well, it doesn't make any difference. He says, well, you're entitled to opinion. I said, oh, well, if I'm entitled to opinion, you're a convicted criminal. I says, you've no authority, you've no contract, you've no jurisdiction or authority. He says, I've already pointed out you're a convicted criminal, and what you say doesn't matter, so why would I care less? And he says, oh, I thought that. That's, well, why are you asking me then? Shut up. And he never said anything about it. What they say doesn't matter. I'm not interested in what they say. He says, so when they actually do something, if he says, well, we're going to change the rules, or you've obtained a result here and we'll change something, do what they want. I couldn't care less, because everything they do is fraud. Because they use the legal fiction, it's fraud. They can never win. And for that argument, you don't deal with them, because it's criminal. So I don't deal with them, ever.
Yeah.
That's why we get away with it.
John, do you want to just mention the void of an order?
Yeah, certainly. Within the system, I found out through a retired barrister, third hand, within the system, they create orders within their courts. Now, many of the orders are issued incorrectly, and there are flaws in the order. So what the barrister had said, it was through somebody else, he says, well, if there's a problem, just void the order. And the individual says, well, how would you void the order? And the barrister says, well, look, if an order has been created by a judge, and in the process of making the judgment, he's committed a fundamental flaw, the order can be voided. And that's it. So you just strike out, it's void, and that's it wiped off from the record. And that's it done. However, it would be ideal getting the court to set it aside, to move it off the record. It doesn't really matter, but you can void it. Now, within the system that they use, if you have a barrister, an advocate, a solicitor, a lawyer, whatever you want to call them, within the system, they will never ever void a judge's decision, because the judges will crucify him and the legal society will crucify him as well. So they don't do it. If you have someone brave enough to try to void a judge's decision, they will only attempt to do so by using a legal argument, a statutory argument. Now, if they use that argument against the judge has got to tie him in knots and they'll lose. So therefore you can't use it. So when we found out about this, we've put a void order in. A judge had made an order for something, so we voided it. We put it in, and it's a simple procedure, but we put in the void paperwork, and then we notified the court that the decision is now void. Now, the only reason we got away with it is because the fundamental flaw that was created was the fact that the judge is using the legal fiction to prosecute you. That is a crime called criminal coercion, and it's something, it's like binding you into slavery. He's not informing you, it's fraud as well, and for that reason, he's committed crimes. So if you stand as a living man or a living woman, and he has not acknowledged that, it's a criminal offence. And for that reason, and that reason alone, you can void the decision. But we voided the decision, and we knew he couldn't come back, but we also added loads of other information that says, here is common law court decisions. Here is the declaration from the common law court. If this judge believes that he can challenge us, he has to challenge the people. He has to challenge God. He has to challenge everyone because of these principles in the document. He cannot do that. In fact, and we actually use the terminology, the only way that the judge can successfully, he says, take this on or void what we've done or win an argument is if the judge were to confirm that he believes he's superior to the people, he's superior to the common law court, and he's superior to God. That's the only way it'll work. So if a judge doesn't, he's not prepared to do it, he can't win. So we've done this, and we've put in about 38, 39 of these orders. The first ones went in on the 31st of January, December last year. We've got all these in, and not one of the orders have been struck out. They're still on the record. They cannot get rid of them. What they do, when we send the paperwork into the court, because we've got to notify them, many of the courts turn around and say, we don't want this. So they turn around and send the paperwork back. And they say, no, we can't accept it. You haven't completed it correctly. It needs to go on this form. You need to do it this way. So we just attach a cover sheet, send it back and say, no, we're not asking for permission. We're not making an application. We're not submitting paperwork. We're not appealing. You've been presented with a void order. You are required to deal with it, and that's the end of it. If you fail to do so, you can be prosecuted. And then when we send that back, it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, but they cannot do anything about it. So it's a way of voiding an order. So any order that they issue in a court, if you've established your position as a living man or woman, you can automatically void any order in their court.
And this has already helped a number of individuals.
Yeah. And it's something we're still working on just now.
I got another quick question, which might be valuable for people here. Having kids, I was a little bit nervous having to go up with the local police. Mm-hmm. I was just a little bit nervous that, because you hear horror stories and they do it all the time, that they can come and start taking my kids off me or stuff. Yeah.
We had a case last week or a couple of weeks ago. We had a girl who was very anxious about her children. It's a long, complicated story, but the social services were threatening to remove a child at birth. So she panicked. So she registered the child immediately with the common law court. And then what she does is this is the clever part, because when she registers her birth as a mother and the birth of the child. So therefore, the both of them are living beings. Now, what you're going to do is take ownership of the legal fiction. So the mother claims ownership of her legal title for herself, which is done. But the child also has a legal fiction. that the state are giving her. So what's happened is the mother, because the child's under 16, the mother can claim the ownership. So the mother claimed the ownership of the title, saying this is the title for the child here, that is the fiction. I am a living woman and I'm claiming ownership of it. So the mother claimed the ownership. So effectively what you have is you have a mother and a child. The mother and the child are both recorded as living individuals with the common law court. The government have legal entities attached to both of them. So the mother has claimed her own entity, the legal title, to protect herself, but because the child, there's one attached to the child, as a parent, she can claim ownership. So the mother has the legal entity for the child as well. So she has them both. Now, if the state were to try to remove the child or to try to vaccinate the child, what they would have to do is get a court order. But the court order would always be issued to the legal fiction. But in issuing a court order is to the legal fiction is the mother, because the mother owns it. The legal fiction is not attached to the child, so they cannot take any action against the child. They cannot remove the child, they cannot vaccinate the child. Now, we established this a couple of weeks ago because a mother was being prosecuted and they says that they were going to fine her for not registering her child with the state. They were then threatened her with a £1,000 fine and they were intimidating her. She was petrified. So we wrote a couple of letters and said no, and we put it in, and they still kept pushing. So because they were pushing, we done a really severe letter and said no, this is enough, enough's enough, and we sent it in, and they went quiet. Then a month later were getting stick from someone else about vaccinating the child. So we put in a letter to them as well, and they weren't happy, so it stayed quiet for 2 months. Now, the child is just over 5 months. A couple of weeks ago, the mother was asked to go in and see the authorities in one of these private hearings. She was petrified and she thought she was going to lose the child. So we told her what to do and gave her a certificate. She went in with the certificate, and when they started asking questions, she says, look, I'm a living woman. My child's living is recorded with the common law court. The legal fiction you refer to, I own, and the legal fiction for the child, I also own. He says, so therefore, you're not getting to do anything to my child. So they weren't happy. He says, well, we've got documents here for you. The two individuals interviewing her says, no, look, just leave it. We need to leave the room. So they left the room for a couple of minutes, came back into the room and says, right, okay, look, as far as we're concerned, we don't want to see you now. We're finished with you. Off you go. So the mother says, well, what about the child? Says, well, we're not interested. Just on you go. We're not taking any action. So the mother says, would you like a copy of my certificates? They said, no, we don't. They just turn around and walk out the office. So it's finished. They cannot prosecute. They could not take a child. They cannot vaccinate. They can do nothing. Now, that's how you protect a child. Because if they issue a contract or issue an order against your child to remove the child or to force vaccination or to get registered, they do so with a legal title. But if you claim ownership of the title, it's not attached to the child, so they cannot take them. Okay? And it does work because it's worked before. Yeah? Anyone else? Everyone's quiet. You're either very good at listening or it's very easy to understand.
There was one woman asking if you were arrested and you got to jail, and how can you prove with papers? Do you need to show something that, or this card?
I went to a court hearing to visit a friend who was in court, and when I went to court, bearing in mind that the judges that we had tried to prosecute, the judges weren't happy, so they had wanted to prosecute someone, and they decided they would find out who sent the court summons to the judge. So because it was all done officially through a registered post and the numbers were recorded in the post office and the timestamp and everything, they found out where the letter came from, when it was posted and the time. So they watched the CCTV, and in doing so, I happened to be standing at the counter posting letters. 3 letters, which had the same numbers at the same time. So they then obviously went in and realised I was in court, so they cleared the court. They didn't want to do it in court. They cleared it for 10 minutes. So we went outside, and I was only there for about 2 minutes, just standing outside. 9 police surrounded me, slapped me in handcuffs and dragged me away. I've never been in prison in my life. I've never committed a crime in my life. And they came up and says, right, we're arresting you. I said, no. He said, we're arresting you and charging with some offence. I asked them immediately if they were police. I says, I wanted to see the warrant card. They wouldn't produce it, so therefore I wouldn't speak to them. I said, well, I'm saying nothing. So they took me away. They took me back to a police station or their prison, and they put me in there, but I was in for 26 hours. And then they had to release me, and they took me to court the next day. So I went to see the judge, and I got bail. I said, so the judge let me out, and then we had to go back to court. But when I went to court, I went in for the court hearing, and it basically says the judge couldn't deal with this. He tried 4 times. He tried all day, and when he didn't get anywhere, he adjourned it for 2 weeks. We went back 2 weeks later. He done the same again, full day, couldn't get anywhere. So he came back another 2 weeks, and then a 4th time. But because I was getting fed up and he was committing crimes, I convened a common law court against him and the prosecutor. And when we done that, the jury, after looking at the evidence and confirming what he'd done, they then gave a guilty verdict on the prosecutor and also the sheriff or the judge in the case. So they gave a guilty verdict. I then got the guilty verdict stamped by the court and sealed. I send it to the prosecutor and the judge confirming they're convicted criminals, and I put it in as evidence for my hearing. So when we went back to the next hearing, the judge went to start at the beginning of the case, and I said, look, before you proceed, I need to confirm for the record that you have obtained the court order that was sent to you. The judge says, yes. He says, I have it here. And as he held it up, I said, well, thank you very much for showing that. That document confirms that you're a convicted criminal. You therefore have to recuse yourself and remove yourself immediately. You cannot take part. And he said, well, I'm not doing that. I said, well, that being the case, and I turned to the police and asked the police to arrest him. He said, but the point is, I knew the police wouldn't, so I put it kindly to him, and I smiled at the police, and I says, look, this is a criminal. He's a convicted criminal. He's held the court finding in his hand to confirm he's a convicted criminal. He cannot continue with the case, and if he does, he's committing crimes again. Now, you can arrest him just now. He says, I understand you won't want to do so, and I also understand you'd have to speak to a superior officer, which you haven't done. So I'm not expecting you to arrest him, although you should, because he's a criminal. If you choose not to, that's fine, because I have it on record, on court record, that he is a convicted criminal and you're refusing to arrest him. If that's the case, it's not a problem. It is recorded. And then he said, I just left it. And then it says to the judge, well, we're obviously not arresting you. What do you want to do? And the judge says, I'll proceed. I says, fine, well, you're a criminal. And I just sat down, and he couldn't say anything to me. Now, he couldn't do anything then and there because it would have looked stupid. But he carried on for a couple of hours, and then he decided he'd had enough, so he dropped the case against me, and I just walked out free. He could do nothing. Now, I even tried to arrest him in his own court. I told him he was a criminal. I told him he couldn't do anything. I didn't consent. I didn't give him authority. Didn't consent to jurisdiction. Done nothing. He couldn't do anything to me with their system because he had no control. So he couldn't proceed, and he had to drop the case. Now, I went through that. That can be used, and we've now done the paperwork to make it a lot easier. So if everyone has to deal with the police or anyone it does, we can give you the paperwork to get out quickly, and the courts can't proceed against you. They're all statutory courts. So if you're prosecuted, try to get away as quickly as possible. He says if they're going to be arrogant, they might take you and lock you in overnight, but they'll take you to court and release you. And then as long as you're getting a court hearing, we'll put in the paperwork for you and sort it out. But all you need to do is confirm your position as a living man or woman. The statutory courts can do nothing to you. They can't, and it doesn't work, and we've proven it time and time again. And this is why, with this developing and growing all the time, and more people using it, it's becoming harder and harder and harder for them. Now, as I said just now, we've got 113 countries. This is the first time I've done a Zoom call with people from Denmark, but there are many people from Denmark signing up to this already. So there are obviously, like every other country, there is injustice. People are being targeted. You can use this to protect yourself. And as I said, we're here to do this and assist. If you've got people within the community, key figures that want to help out, we're quite happy to work with them and give you everything you need, and we'll assist with the process. Okay.
Is it necessary to have this ID card, or
No.
It's just if you want to have something to show.
Yes.
Or,
Everything in the common law court you use is free of charge. You confirm your position in the court by making a declaration. You submit the information. It's all free of charge. Now, when you submit a birth declaration, you do so, but you're then given an automated reference number. So with the reference number, it confirms your entry. And then if you had to deal with the authorities or a court, you would write to them to say, I stand as a living man or a living woman. I have confirmed my position by submitting a declaration to the common law court. This is my reference number, and give them the reference number. And it's free of charge. So you get that anyway. So if you put that in your paperwork, you don't need the physical document. But many people do like a document, and some people like to have a card. You don't need it because you've got all the information anyway. If you want to do it, fine, it's okay. It's not a problem. But as I said, what we've done is we've tried to keep the price down as much as possible. So if anyone did want one, they can have one. And we even set up a facility. If people only want it for the court and they don't want the actual document, they can get a half-price PDF copy. So it's colour and it gives the embossed seal and everything. So it works out, and that's not too bad. The card is a little bit more because obviously we do make a little bit of profit on that. But for the website and everything we do, we need money obviously for the website, for expenses and courts and things like that. Nobody pays for a court hearing. We have to obtain a venue. We travel all over the country. We go to these places, and it says we do all these things, but there's no money comes in at all. So we just use that, and obviously we do make a little bit of money on the cards. It goes in. We've never got a huge account, but we use the money it's in for what we've got. If we had substantial funds, this can actually take off a lot quicker. We can get more people involved. We would obviously be able to roll this out a lot easier, but we don't. We struggle for money, which obviously makes it difficult. But in the 3 years we've been going, well, it's not quite 3 years. We have achieved a load in the 3 years, and we've now got all the people standing with us, so it is good. And we'll just continue that way. As I say, it's not about money, it's about the process. But the thing is, I've been in the position as well because of what they did to me, and I ended up bankrupt. There was times I had no money at all. No, people are losing. Some people can't feed themselves. Some people can't keep a roof over their head. They're losing their children. They're being attacked by the state. They're losing everything. You're facing forced vaccinations, 5G and everything. People can't do this. They're not in the position. And if they don't have money, they need to be protected. This system offers the protection, and it's free. Anyone can use it. And as I said, it's all about standing together and holding the state accountable for their behaviour.
It's really a network, a worldwide network of this basic. It's not a political. It's just it's a completely common. So the word "common" is really wonderful, actually, because the equality that we have before the law is really the underlying principle.
It's just down to common sense. Yeah.
Yes. I posted "make common sense viral" at the beginning of the coronavirus thing. But just the ITNJ, the International Tribunal of National Justice, was something I was looking at when it first came out. I got excited about it. I realized it wasn't going anywhere. I thought, what's that got to do with you? And so on. Nothing. Just 2 sentences, John, very quickly, because I think some people know about it.
The ITN, whatever it is, International Tribunal for Justice and Common Law, whatever they call themselves. There's a few things in relation to that. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to ask you a question. This is a tribunal that's been set up in a court to deal with issues and crimes against the state. This is set up, and I think they have 14 people. Now, the 14 people they have are all key figures from the statutory system. I believe that there's someone from the CIA, ex-CIA, there's various dignitaries on there, and there's also someone who holds a senior position in the church. So you have statutory systems there and senior figures being represented on this tribunal. Now, if they're involved with the state, it can't be impartial, it can't be a good common law, because they're all tied in with the church and the state. Not only that, what they do is these 14 people never ever change. So it cannot be an impartial tribunal for the people because it's always the same 14 people. It's like yourself and 13 family members saying, we're going to form a court and we're going to prosecute everyone we don't like. And you take your family members and sit down and you've created this tribunal and that's it. What they also do is they don't do anything. They actually sit and have a meeting, a discussion about a topic. So they'll cover something and they'll speak about it and they'll interview people. But when they do, nothing ever happens. There's nothing enforced. Now, they were set up about 6 months after we set up the Common Law Court. So I don't know why it came about, but we didn't have money. And when they set up, immediately on setting themselves up, they had access to the House of Parliament or the House of Commons in the UK. They very quickly got access and went right inside Parliament and were allowed to use the rooms to hold private meetings. And the facilities they had with the camera working technicians are something that obviously the major TV companies would have access to. They had all that. Money was no object. And they had these people scattered about, dignitaries from all over the world. And all they were doing is sitting down debating something. And they're supposed to represent the people. Well, the normal living men and women, who do they represent? They're not. They're all tied into the state. They've got money. They're part of the system. They actually hold meetings in the Parliament building for the UK. So it's not impartial, in my opinion. They don't do anything. They don't help the people. And they're self-appointed. Nobody else can get on. They are self-appointed. They're 14 people. When we convene a common law court, the common law court is you. It's the people. And depending on where you go, you deal with different people. So within a community in Denmark, you have a common law court that's made up of the people of Denmark. When you come to Scotland, you'll have 14 people in Scotland, and so on. We had one to deal with the issue of the Queen in the UK. The hearing was in England. The case was by myself, but we had jury members. Now, we had 11 jury members who were English, and we had one American, which was fine. But I'm a Scotsman, and I was down in London having a court case against the Queen. I said, but we got the result, which is great. But the point is, if these individuals meet, it says they meet and they always sit down, the 14, and have this meeting. If they're supposed to represent the people all over the world, why? Why do they do it? Who gives them the authority? They're self-appointed. Now, on that reason, do you, in your opinion, believe that they represent the people? And do you believe that they've achieved anything? In my opinion, no. So I just don't bother with them. Yeah.
John, can I pick up on that as well?
Yeah.
Because I used to be Sacha Stone's right-hand man, effectively, in Humanitad, going back to 2011 for a short period.
Yeah.
And I left. And when I left, I found, and I left in good standing as well. I got a reference and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I then was approached by a significant number of people who'd worked with Humanitad, all of whom had the same story to tell, which I also observed. It's a toxic organisation.
To be quite honest, what I'd like to let everyone know here, look, it's just, to be quite honest, when you speak about other organisations or other methods or other ways to proceed, it doesn't matter. It's just what they do. People work for the government, they work for the state, they work for other groups, they have their own agendas. It doesn't matter. Let them do what they want to do. Ignore them. They don't matter. If you work together and you're trying to deal with something and you're trying to obviously create a lawful process, you're there to protect the people and you want a lawful remedy, why are you going to waste time on people that don't matter? If they don't matter, ignore them. If you have to deal with them at a later date. They don't matter, just ignore them. Concentrate on what you're doing. The main objectives are to stand together and to create a system for the people that will protect them. When people come in and do something, it's a distraction. They're taking away your efforts by setting up something you should concentrate on by trying to stir it. So what? If they do something, I couldn't care less. I said to the judge says, I'm going to prosecute you. I said, so what? And he says, well, I'm going to find you. I could do this, that, and that. I said, I couldn't care less, sort of. It doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. Which he got the message when I was let off. But the thing is, it works that way. You spend too much time dealing with other people. I don't worry about them. I couldn't care less of these people. Now, they may be good, they may be bad. I don't know enough about them. And based on my opinion, I don't have the time to get involved with them. We just concentrate on what we're doing and carry on. Now, what I would say is, do not, for God's sake, do not turn round. If you want to deal with a major issue that's concerning you, do not turn around and say, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use that. No, you can't do that. If you're going to achieve any success at all, you have to come up with a solution and stick to it and argue. You don't use something and say, well, I'm going to use this, I'm going to fight with this. And then something happens and say, well, I like this, but I think I'm going to add something else. Don't do it, because you're throwing too many things into the pot. If you go in and you argue one point and you're right, that's it. If you go in and you argue a point and you're not winning, forget it. It'll never work. Stick to one thing and concentrate on one thing. And as I says, in my opinion, with what we have with the common law court, it seems to be the only thing that works. I've appreciation for the people that put in time and effort for various reasons. I don't know why they do it. It's about they put in time and effort to do things. They may have ulterior motives, but by my way of thinking, why are they doing that when it doesn't work? Because it doesn't work. And then with the time that we've spent doing this, in my opinion, it seems to be the only thing that seems to win. We've never been shot down, and the state can't stop us. And the point is, we've got nothing to do with the state, and it's successful. So the point is, if something works there, why would the people not use it? If you're not paying to use it and it works, why would you not use it? So it's there if they want to use it. If you don't wish to, you're entitled to use something else. I wish it the best of luck. But that's the way it works. It's just down to personal opinions. But as I said, don't confuse it. If you go and take on the state or try to fight your corner or put an argument forward, have one way. Don't dilute it, because if you start diluting it, they'll hit you. They have more authority than you, and they'll come in and argue it. When we put in something into a court, we put it in, but we win every point. If we go to a court, they will never, ever win 1 point. Never. Because if they win a point, they'll dismiss a whole case because of it. So when we go in as living men and women. They can never, ever win and beat us. And it's been proven up until now. Okay?
Absolutely. John, can I just follow up on that very briefly? There's always a question I ask, which is, does it empower people? And
without a doubt.
Exactly the root of what we're doing. And the other thing is it simple? And yes, it is. It couldn't be more simple.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The root of the problem like a laser beam. So this is why this is the most powerful, simplest, and most user-friendly solution. Nothing else touches it from what I've seen. Nothing else. And it couldn't.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'll be heading off soon, so final questions. Yeah. Anyone?
Jan, you have a question?
Yes, I have an issue. Hello, my name is Jan. I want to ask you about if you have some property in a company and the judge have made a court order on that, what can you then do?
Void the order.
Okay.
I don't know if you joined us earlier. You were here earlier on. We're discussing a void order. If you establish your position as a living man and you take ownership of the legal fiction, which we covered earlier, the first thing you would do is submit an order to the court. And basically you're submitting and you're telling them that you have voided their order. Their order is no longer relevant because you've cancelled it. I can give you the paperwork for it.
Yeah.
All we need is some basic details, put it in, and all you do is present it to the court, and that's it. There's no hearing, and you don't have to speak to them. You just hand them the order, and basically says, well, I don't agree with what you've done. I'm now cancelling it. And that'll start the argument, but it gives you protection immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how can I get in touch with you then?
I think I'm not sure who's obviously dealing with this. I'll have it. What I'll do is,
John, will you? John, sorry, Mike, will you? Or me. I've got your details, John. I can pass that to the group via Christian afterwards, or you know.
Well, do that. If you need to contact me individually, it says, look, I will help just now, and something like that is very easy. I require basic details, but if I get the basic details for the court and the date and things like that, we can prepare the paperwork for you, and all we do is email it to you. All it requires is your signature, and then put it in. But unfortunately, when you're using this, it's like everything else. There's no cost for this, so you won't get charged. But the point is, for using this process, you have to confirm your birth and obtain ownership of the fiction. So you make the two entries. If you do that on the site, if you do that on the site, that's fine. And then if you need help, let us know. We'll advise, and we'll say, look, this is how we deal with it. And if you're happy, we can do the paperwork for you. You'll get it done in an afternoon. It's easy to do, as long as we have the basic information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, anyone else? Alistair? Yeah.
Yeah. Just following on from that, I've avoided a lot of stuff like setting up a company or setting up a new company. Once I dissolved an old company, I'd be very interested if there's any experience with working, men and women trading with each other outside of the state system, so to say.
We have people now setting up their companies under common law.
Wow.
So it was something people asked about. It's not because we only deal with living men and women. We don't deal with companies or corporations. But what we do is, as a living man or woman, you can state that you wish to conduct commerce or you need to make a living. So what you're going to do as the responsible individual, you've named yourself, you're now going to conduct business, but what you do is you give us your trading name. So you can have a trading name, which is a company name, and then you can continue trading. What that means is you're no longer liable to pay tax to the system. So that happens and the rules don't apply either. But with that comes the onus of making sure that you're running your company lawfully and that you're causing no harm, loss and injury to others. So providing key principles are adhered to, you can actually do that. The only thing which I will say is because this set up, effectively every individual, even as an individual employee, they pay tax to the state always. Now, if you're paying tax to the state, by recording this and going under common law and using this facility, you can save substantial sums in tax. The common law court doesn't have money, we don't make money, but then when people had spoken with the business, we said, right, we'll set this up, but we will have to defend people at some point and help out to launch this. But if we're going to do it, we're going to state to them there is a facility and there will be a charge. So what we've said is if you set this up, we take a £50 per month charge. Now that means that for the £50, it means you don't cover any tax, you don't pay it, you're not liable, and it means when the state come to argue with you, if need be, we'll deal with them for you. So we deal with it and work with you. If you don't pay tax anyway, you're not paying enough, it may not be enough to justify it, but by charging that, it takes something from someone that's trading under common law, it takes an amount of money and it feeds it back into the system, and that is used to help other individuals. Absolutely. Which is obviously what it's used for. Yeah. So we do that, and there are a number of people doing this just now, and it does work. And we've actually had the authorities actually turn around. This girl, there's no need to notify the authorities, but this girl did and says, look, as from this date, I'm closing the company down. I'm trading under common law. Obviously, I'm no longer accountable to you, and I'm shutting down the business. They thanked her for the information and accepted the fact she'd finished trading and she was moving to common law, and that's the end of it. So she's actually went and she has a letter from the authorities accepting that was the case as well.
Yeah,
wow. It happens. It is happening just now. It is changing. But again, that's something else that was set up recently because people have started asking about it. But obviously, I would suggest before you've done that, there's a few things you'd probably want to clarify. So yeah, having a chat beforehand so you fully understand what's involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would not. It's not enough. My intention would be nothing to do with not paying tax, but it would be where does the money go to?
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is when you pay money to the state at all in any way, shape, or form, it's where the money goes. Mm-hmm. It's being abused and it's lining the pockets of the corrupt people. So it's not for the people, it's not used, and therefore, it says I object to doing it as well. It says, so therefore, if you wish to conduct lawful business and trade and obviously earn a living for yourself and your family, that's fine, but you should obviously help out with the community. Now, if it's not because you're paying tax, which we would understand they're so corrupt, you should obviously return something. So he said, we'll take a small payment once a month. That payment comes in, but for that, it goes back to the common law court, and we convene courts, pay for buildings, and do various other things. So the option's there, so you are returning something to the community.
Yeah, and I understand there's various thoughts and possibilities of choosing where your money can go to, for instance, to schools, to local beneficial things, rather than I just can't pay for weapons and wars anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll certainly get in touch with that. I'll formulate my intentions and then I'll be in touch. It's very important for me.
Well, I don't know, obviously, if anyone's has any questions. It's been quite a while. Obviously, I'm busy and I'll probably have to go shortly. All I would say just now is if
Thanks for staying that long.
It's okay. If you think about something afterwards, you have any questions, you can contact one or two of the main people here in the group, have a chat with them, put the questions to them. I'm quite happy to come on again at a later date if you want to do something similar again, or ask more questions, or if you need something in advance, you can forward the questions. I'll get them answered and get back to you, either through a contact or directly myself. For those of you who are dealing with something that's pressing and you need some help with a court-related issue just now, quite happy to give you some advice. And as I said, we're quite happy to assist and give you some paperwork as well if you want. It's not a problem. Okay. All we do is we're getting some things set up on the site just now. First of all, hopefully everyone's understood. So I apologise because I don't speak Danish and you have understood me. But obviously I'm grateful that you do understand English. That's great. I said, but obviously the site is set up. We are putting up videos, quite a few of them in the next week or so, and over the next 2 or 3 weeks there's quite a lot happening as well. So if you wanted to follow what's going on, hopefully you'll certainly have your eyes open. You'll understand a lot more, and feel free, as if you want to use something, any part of this at all in Denmark, we'd be happy to assist with this as well. As I said, we've got loads of countries using this and actually starting to convene their own courts. So if it's something you want to do yourself, we're more than happy to help out.
Okay. Yeah, I have a short one. Thank you so much, John, first and foremost, for this. It's beautiful, beautiful work. And then short question, the documents you have, and I've been through your website earlier today also, are in English. Do they, now you mentioned the language, does it stand in, when you go into the state courts in countries where the regular language is, for instance, Danish or another?
Okay, well, if you were to put it into court and you're worrying about whether it's in Danish or English, why would you worry? Because you're then panicking about the court, what they're going to do, but the court have no authority. So you can do whatever you want. If you wish to put it in English, leave it to them. If you want to take the document that we have, you can have it translated if you want. Unfortunately, we don't have, what we have spoke about, and it's something else, depending on ourselves. We have people that have used the site, and again, they've spoke about different languages as well. It's being Scots is very difficult for me to speak English, but what we do on that point, what we're doing is we put things down in English, and we appreciate, obviously there's people worldwide that don't speak English. I'm grateful that you do understand, which is great. But the thing is, as this develops, there is no reason why we can't actually replicate this and change the site and put it in different languages. It needs obviously a few more people actively getting involved, but we can do it. What we've decided to do to test the water is we've set up international pages. So when you go onto the site, there's a heading that says community. If you go to community, underneath it says CLC International. And then we've actually put up some countries, just people I'm speaking to just now. But a couple of days ago, one of the first ones was New Zealand. So they're actually putting up information relevant to New Zealand, and it's quite good. So they've set up, but the thing is, we have a page for Denmark. If you have 2 or 3 people in Denmark that wanted to work together, I can give you access to the site, and you're in control, and you can post information about Denmark, about what's happening on in your own country. You can post onto these pages, and if you wish to publish it in Danish, you can do so. It's not a problem. You can use that to let the people understand. Although the site is in English, it says you have your own pages, and for people within your community, you can highlight problems. You spoke about forced vaccinations, things like that, and about the work that we're doing. So you can actually post information, let them know, and you can put up as many posts as you want. With that, we can start working with people in other countries and slowly develop it. But when we get the documents we have, you can actually get them translated. I know we don't have money to do that, but if we supply documents, you can actually take the document, get it translated, and then put it in court. So it's easy enough to do. But the original documents I would leave in English, because obviously they're written in English, but if you take them in and present it to the judge, it's up to them. They're presented with a court document, and they're legally bound to actually look at the document, understand it, and deal with it. They cannot dismiss it, regardless of the language. And when you go to court, in this country, like most other countries, they will say that when you go to court, the hearing has to be conducted in a language that you're comfortable with. Now, if you're comfortable submitting English paperwork, you're entitled to do that. And if they don't allow you to do that, they're committing more crimes against you. Yeah?
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right, we just about finished there.
Yeah, thank you, John, for all your time and energy. And 2 hours. You were supposed to be a half hour. Now it's 2 hours. So, so maybe you can. Let's give him a good thumbs up here, and then maybe Mike, you can just stay, and Gregers. I don't know, Gregers, if you need to leave also, but maybe just finish off 7 minutes more for the people if they have any questions. Maybe.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank everyone for spending time listening to this. Hopefully you've made it easier for you to understand. I'll leave just now, but as I says, if you have any more questions, I will deal with them. If you decide you would like to have another one of these, I'm quite happy to do so. If I get a bit of notice, I can pencil that in as well. As I say, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask some of the individuals here, and we'll get them to me and we'll answer them. Okay?
Brilliant.
Okay, bye-bye then. Thank you very much. I'll leave just now then. Okay, bye-bye. Okay,
bye.
Cheerio, everyone.
So, Mike, is Mike here? Yes, Mike is still here. So just if there's any more questions, then Mike, he can still stay for, should we say 5 minutes more, Mike?
Well, can I give you a summary? Because I think this is the most important thing is, you know, understand the essence of this. The whole legal system is based on fraud. It's based on an illegal contract where the ownership of babies is transferred to the state. That's what registration means. You register your car, the state owns it. That's the only way they can take your car off you, because you own it. That's the only way they can take your children off you, because you own them. So the essence of this is super, super simple. 1, you register your birth to yourself, and it says, I'm a living man, because all of the actions in this legal system are taken against corporations, and they're clever enough to call these corporations Mr. Christian Shamani or Mr. Mike Upstone, all in capitals. So that's the first thing, is I'm a living soul. The second one is then the legal fiction. Oh, hang on. I own that as well. And that means what you're doing, judge, is fraud, because you're taking action against something which you're assuming that you own, that I own. I own my legal fiction. And if you want to, you need to disprove that. If you want to disprove that, then you have to show how the legal fiction is made and that it's not a fraud. They can't do it because it's all based on a fraud, and it's all based on illegality by their own rules. And on that basis, any action they take is invalid. So I'm now the rightful owner of this, not the government, not the court, no one else. And on that basis, bye-bye, it's job done. So do you understand? That's the most important thing. If you understand that this is all about the root of the system and how you deal with it. And then you've got the paperwork and you've got the processes for convening your own court, getting your own judgments. And the beauty of this is it's not complicated. It's very, very, very simple. So, and that's why it's for the people as well. That's why I think it's so powerful. And that's all you really need to know. And the beauty is you've got these documents that you can get as well. But if you understand who you are, you understand how this system is built, and you know your rights, you've got it. You've absolutely got everything that you need. And you know, if you're like me, you'll have spent years and years and years and years looking at common law, legislation, statutes, maritime admiralty law, equity law, ecclesiastical law, all sorts of other stuff. The beauty is there's a man who's got the genius to find the simplicity of the whole thing and how it works. So that's it. And he's not even owning it. He's creating it as a service so we can do it ourselves. It's brilliant.
Therein lies a big clue, I think.
That's the clue. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And it's very simple very simple to start a process in Denmark. It just starts with like, I mean, I'm going to get access to an email address that's going to represent the Denmark. That can be shared with a few others, and then we start just simply having a presence that can be contacted. We're in contact with John if we need extra information, and slowly the ball starts rolling. But you can hear from where he spoke, he helps. And I can only testify to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said, Gregor. Thank you. Is it Miana? Miana's asked a question. I want to know if you can answer this now, Miana. Okay. What about the driver's license? I also have a license for driving a truck and would still like to be able to do that. What do you think the answer is, Miana? I'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. You'll have to unmute yourself. Is it Miana? Am I saying that right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you? Okay. I'm on Skype. I could not get it to function. So, yeah, it's just when you drive a truck here in Denmark.
Do you understand what I've said?
New trucks.
What do you think the answer is?
Yeah, but you need a blue card to put in the machine, or the truck can't drive.
What do you think the answer is?
Because I don't need the driver's license. Yes, I understand, but you cannot drive a truck without the blue card.
Yeah.
Or the tachograph. I don't know what. In the old days, it was a paper. But today you need to put in a blue card, and there's your birth number with the 4 digits behind. And if you don't have that, I don't know.
All right.
That's why I ask.
Right, I'll answer then, okay? Because you haven't quite got it. And that's fair enough. That's okay, because it's such a strange concept. The first thing is, this system is all there for us to use. It doesn't mean if you adopt this methodology and you work with the common law court that you can't have all of the benefits from the system. Your pension, your social security, be treated by a hospital, be able to operate in commerce, be able to drive a truck. If you want to engage with that system, engage with that system. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you have to surrender all of that stuff and send it back into the system and stuff like that. You don't have to do that. All it is saying is you can protect your rights. All right? So you can still use your card. But if they stop you for speeding or for something else, when you haven't actually harmed anyone else or caused injury or loss, guess what?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay?
So,
and that's...
Yes, so we act normal, but we don't do the things we don't want, the tax and, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, and I didn't ask that as a trick question. That's a really important, do you understand question? Because this is a lot of people look at this and they go, well, you know, in that case, I'm outside the system and I don't get my pension and I don't get my social security and all the rest of it.
I don't have pension.
It could be, for example, if you're on a pension, that you can then say to the government, hey, I'm supposed to be index linked. I'm not getting my full benefits. I'm now going to bring a claim against you for what I should be getting because guess what? You've caused me loss. So just little things to process, just to be clear about who we are and how we interface with the system. Okay.
What about Empower movement? Michael, you speak a lot about Empower movement. Do you know about that, Mike?
It looks, I mean, it's basic law stuff by the look of it. And basic law stuff is really powerful. I mean, they're charging money for it and all the rest of it. But you can get all of that stuff probably from the common law court website as well, because they've got other documents like liens and things like that up there also. So, you know, do you want to keep paying every month for that kind of stuff? And they're claiming successes, but, you know, yeah, and they could be right. They could be right. Basic law is very, very powerful, but they might not be. It might be that other people are doing things as well successfully. So, you know, we can't be 100% on that. Why? Because we know when we engage the system and we're successful, that they don't say, hey, Mike Upstone, refused to contract with us. He didn't say he was Mr. Mike Upstone. He said he was the interested party 3 times. He refused to enter the court 3 times and said, I'll only enter on condition that my natural God-given rights and inalienable rights are reserved. They won't go through a whole sort of process like that. They'll just say, case dismissed due to lack of evidence or something. Get it away, put it under the table as quickly as possible. So we don't always get the direct reflection back from the court that we've been successful.
I'd like to just say, Mike, that I'd be really keen to make friends with the rest of my brothers and sisters here on Facebook or whatever. Just keep in touch and give each other support. I know that people need that. I know that I've needed it myself going through this whole process in the last 15 years. I've needed people that I can go and ask questions to, and just have some psychological support, somebody that's there for you if you need a bit of encouragement, or if you've got a stupid question to ask and you can't go to Mike or to John because they're super busy. I'd like to be there for everybody else. I'd like everybody else to be there for me too. You know, it's just good to connect, and so I'd like to make friends with some of the people here.
Yeah, well spoken. Same here. I think that's what I meant by it's basically a network, and it's a lot more powerful than the medium that we're using.
That's backwards.
No. That's
not for me.
Mate, that's all in capital.
Daniel Brooks.
Yeah.
Daniel Brooks.
It's all in capital.
Is that your name, Deborah?
That's my name. Yeah, it's not Deborah.
Okay, it's cool.
And you can find me.
It's his fiction. It's in capital.
Yeah. That's the legal fiction, me. You can find me on
Dead Man.
Yeah, and I'd really love to get to know some of you guys.
Mate, if you want to set up a page on Facebook or however you want to do it, email group or something, you think about how you want to do it, and then you can approach me and I'll talk with Christian, and then we've got 2 sort of link points for this. So Miana asked another question: don't we have to pay the 2,000 or 5,000 for the paperwork? I don't know what you're talking about. You're probably talking about your commercial.
This is the Asfali costs that I think is being referred to. With common law, there really are no costs unless you want something sent by post, like the little card you got. You pay £25 for that, I believe, Mike.
Yeah.
There's no cost for paperwork. I mean, none.
Yeah. So
okay,
in Denmark,
we don't.
In Denmark, there's something called Asfali, and Asfali is something else. It's something totally different.
It is something totally different. It's very clever. I was very happy to find it, but then I realized I have been speaking with John probably once a month for the last year, because I've just been so enthusiastic about what he's doing and my experience. Look, I'm a musician, composer. I don't know much about the law, but I just feel that there's something here which is so powerful, but it's like the grass growing through the pavement. It's extraordinary. And just the way he works and talks, and so I just very much opposite to my feeling about Sasha Stone, Mike, actually, who I felt quite suspicious of very quickly. I just feel John is an amazing force, and actually, although he's very busy, he works about 18 hours a day, he is actually available to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, mate. Yes, he's not got any ego or anything else, and he's just absolutely brilliant, and he is there to serve. So you know, I mean, if you've got to pay, just to push back to this question, if you've got to pay for this, whatever it is, driver's license or truck driver's thing, then pay it. You know, simple as that. But
okay,
you know, you don't have to pay your fines, and you don't have to pay your tax, and you don't have to pay the other stuff either. But you know, how complicated do you want to make it? If you want to drive a truck, then drive a truck. You've already got a big advantage over a lot of people just by knowing about this stuff. So what else have we got?
Just a quick mention.
It's very, very cheap on the website as well. So, you know, just go and do it. Registering the birth. If you, so sorry, someone said that they, not having a birth certificate in Denmark, it's nothing whatsoever to do with your Danish birth certificate. It doesn't matter where you were born. You just go onto the Common Law Court website and you fill in the form and it says, I was born here on this day. My name is, that's the job done. It's so simple. There's nothing else that you need to do.
Mike.
Yeah.
How important is it, because I started that process, how important is it that the information you're giving is the same as the information on your birth certificate? Does that even really matter?
You want to make sure that the information that you give to the Common Law Court is accurate because you're dealing with common law. What is common law? Common law is you cause no harm, injury or loss. There's no fraud in your transactions and you don't breach the peace. So you don't want to be, you know, doing anything that's, you know, potentially fraudulent. But it's, you know, the system birth certificate is completely irrelevant. What you're saying is, the point is, yeah.
Just a quick one. In as far as the legal fiction refers to your birth certificate, when you want to take hold of your legal fiction, you do want it to tally. So, you know, birth time, date, place, it's those things. That's it. And parents. I think parents are mentioned as well. You'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not like the court is going to say, you know, show us your original birth certificate and
the
law one stuff. What you're, in fact, you're not even going that far with them. You're saying, hey, I can prove I'm a flesh and blood living soul. That's my birth certificate. I own it. I can prove I own my legal fiction. I own that. So what are you doing here, Your Honor? If you want to disprove any of this, you've got to prove, you know, how the legal fiction was created, and that's a fraud. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to show that someone else owns it. You can't possibly do that. You're now inviting them to dig the biggest pit in history, and they're not going to want to do that. So that's it. It's just checkmate. Boom, boom, boom. In 2 moves. That's it. It's job done.
Great.
Yes, the yellow card anyway.
I'm gonna head off. Great to have this chat. Great to see all you guys. It's super encouraging. It's brilliant. The last time I felt so encouraged was when I was at a meeting with Michael of Benicia like 10 years ago, and that was a super exciting moment for me. But this evening has been a real stepping stone for me. It's brilliant. I can see the tunnel. I can see the light now.
Good. Get down to the beach again.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go down to the beach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good night, guys.
Good night, mate. Everyone happy?
Good night.
Hopefully.
Daniel, can I just have a question?
Be in touch.
Is it time for another question?
Yeah, shoot away. Make it quick, though.
Okay.
I'm done.
Just wondering about the 5G and the smart meters. How do you think about that? How do we get rid of those things that we don't want, that we feel harmless?
The Common Law Court have actually, if you go on their website, they've taken that up as they've conducted a case around that, and have ordered the British government to halt any further rollout. So you can study that document on the Common Law Court, and it's very much an anti-position.
Yeah, so that's what you recommend we do in Denmark too. Something similar.
There's the possibility of doing something similar through the Common Law Court. Yes.
Yeah, and I can only speak for myself, but if you think that something's going to cause harm, injury, or loss, then you're entitled to the right of self-defense. I mean, this is not necessarily encouraged, of course, but in the old days, I want to explain how different things were in Britain in the old days. 200 or 300 years ago, it was the Queen who was cracking the Prince of Wales around the ear for not bowing deeply enough to the people when they went to the theatre. So the royal family had to acknowledge the people. If you've got a smart meter next door to you, or a 5G installation, then you know, I think that at that stage you've got the right to self-defense. And if you want data on this, there's a campaign, I've forgotten what it is, but there's 1,800 studies saying that, you know, Houston, this is a problem. It's a biological problem for plants and people and for animals and stuff like that. So, you know, ultimately you've got a right to, you know, to disable that and to stop it from working if you think that it's damaging you or any other human being.
Yeah.